Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
the podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young. And we're so glad you joined us today.
All right, y'all, come on. Let's get into it. Hey, people. We are back with the For Better and Worth podcast.
And we are excited to talk about our topic today. It is just something different, but also vitally important. So we're glad that you're here and that you tuned in.
Yeah, and while it's different, I think it's one of those building blocks that I say is foundational.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about, retirement and just how making little steps will make a difference. And really it's about, there's gaps. We all are aware of the wealth gap between, people of color and the majority population that's out there. But this is, Black History Month. We wanted to make sure that we came to you and we just kind of talked about it. And we want to give you those steps, not only that we've taken in our lives, but really just steps that you can take in your life that will make a difference for you. So
Absolutely.
Let's get into it, Eric.
Yes. So first of all, I am passionate about talking about this. So if you hear me getting a little, excited, annoyed, or angry about this statistics.
All of those emotions at once.
Yeah. There's a reason for it. So the wealth gap is what I want to bring light to, right? So, and specifically when you talked about the majority group and people of color, we're this statistic is with white American household net worth versus the Black American household net worth. And it is jarring, frustrating, and hopefully it will motivate you to action. So the average white American household has $188,000 in net worth, and the average Black American household has about $24,000 in net worth. And that is 8 times what the Black American has in net worth, and it is completely unacceptable. And sadly, it's not really getting better. So the whole goal of today is for you to make a difference in your own net worth. We're going to talk about our journey and the small steps that we took, but we do not want you to be a part of that statistic. And the truth of the matter is that $188,000, though it is 8 times the net worth of the Black Americans, still not enough, right? Like we want to make sure that you are getting to the place where you can sustain yourself without having to work, right? So at some point, you want to be able to step away from working, and $188,000 just isn't going to cut it, right?
And look, we talk about progress over perfection. And so we're going to continue to talk about how you can take those steps, because small steps lead towards progress. And it's not about doing everything perfect. It's definitely about having discipline and motivation. But we want to make sure you take those small steps, because small steps add up. And they can get you where you need to go. And so, let's just jump into it. So I want to pose a little question to you, Ericka. What is it that you think holds people back the most with money?
Honestly, one of the big things that holds people back is consistency, right? So discipline, doing the same thing, not touching your long-term retirement dollars, making sure that you are, in fact, you have a goal that you're going after, and you're not diverting from that big picture goal. And so I think it's hard. Life is hard. We have our detours, our roadblocks, and things that come up. But I think a lot of people tend to not remain consistent, and they allow the detour to become a new path. And so just make the detour that moment and get back on the path that you're on. I think that's really important.
Isn't life just funny how all it takes is some small tweaks, small adjustments, and just being consistent?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to lose weight, just be consistent, right?
Woo.
Just eat less, go to the gym, but have a plan that keeps you consistent.
Yeah.
If you want to save, just spend less, save more. It
Yeah.
sounds simple, but you can apply this rule really to anything in life. And when I think about, what holds people back most with money is that they're saying yes to something.
Ooh, yep.
And you say yes to the things that are of minor importance when you
Mm.
should be saying yes to the things that are of major importance.
Hmm.
And so I think that's where we miss it a lot of times is that instead of saying, okay, you know what? I want to get out of debt. And one, I'm going to stop spending on debt. And I'm going to devise a plan and a strategy. We let it creep in. And we've told you our journey hasn't been perfect. But what I can tell you is that we had a mindset that we were not willing to deviate from.
Hmm.
And that was the end goal, and the end plan was to, get out of debt, begin to build wealth. And there's steps and phases that you go through, but we did not deviate from that plan. And we just continue to work it. We continue to work it, continue to work it. And I think it's some of those things that people just continue to say yes to those bigger things or those smaller things, in my estimation, when they should be saying yes to the bigger things. That's one of the things I think that really holds people back. And sometimes even when you make mistakes,
Hmm.
you get out on this island and you feel like you're stranded.
Right.
And it's like, you're not on an island stranded. There's a boat sitting right offshore that you
Right.
can get in and get back on course. But you're on the wrong side of the island. You can't see the solution. And sometimes you just got to journey around and look around and find it to help get back on track.
And I think that's a good point too, because we don't want to abandon the big picture goals. So this is really key. Maybe people haven't created the big picture goal. So they're not aware that they have gotten stranded. Because if you haven't created the goal, you don't even know what the target is you're trying to
Oh,
hit.
man.
Okay? So let's get clear on what the priority is or what the top 2 to 3 things are that you're striving for, that you're going after. Where are you putting all of your energy? Because if you don't know that, any path will do and any direction will take you there, right? So you can't wander into wealth building. You can wander into debt. That is super easy, but you actually have to be very intentional, strategic, and consistent to build wealth. So let's talk about something real quick here because you mentioned, I just need to kind of circle back a little bit. You said that it's simple, like staying on target, being consistent is a simple concept. It is, in fact, sometimes hard to consistently do it, right? Life happens. Like we said, you might have a detour. You might feel like you're on this island and it's hard to figure out how to navigate back on. So we want to keep this really simple and easy to kind of understand. So what do you think people need to do, or what do they miss when they're trying to make progress and change their net worth? What is, in your opinion, that missing link?
So I think if you have made the decision, first of all, that one, you want to eliminate your debt, and then you want to begin to build a different legacy. And you guys have heard us talk about changing our family tree. And I think it's important to just level set for us. We grew up single parent homes. Our moms did everything they could to provide for us. And we didn't have everything we needed. Well, let me back up. We had everything we needed, but we didn't maybe have everything that we wanted. Even though, my mom did her best to, try and give us some indulgences. But we didn't have excess. We didn't have, retirement and wealth building. That wasn't a conversation that we were having. Like, when I was growing up, net worth, that wasn't something we talked about in my family, or that wasn't something that I really heard
Yeah.
in our community talking about net worth and all of that. So I'm fast forwarding past some of that, but I think it's important to, level set that when we talk about changing our family tree, it's about changing the thought process, changing the mindset, changing the way we go about doing things. So it's not just following the conventional paths that we've seen where you go, you get credit cards, you live off those, you live off debt, you work, you pay the minimums. That's all convention. And so for us, changing our family tree is doing the unconventional things, not living on debt, not incurring or getting additional credit cards, and not, letting what we see other people do be the compass that we follow on this path. So we want to forge a new path.
Yeah.
So I think once you've made a decision that you're going to follow a course like that, then you've got to start looking at how you can get there.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about navigation. Before we had, all these GPSs on our phones and everything, you would look at a map and you would look at that map and you would
Oh my gosh,
chart
who
out your
remembers a
journey.
paper map? Literally pulling that thing out and having it in front of you in the car. I remember the last time we had that.
Look, when I was in college, I worked for FedEx, so I became, a pro at using a map, and I would always think about a map. I would chart out my journey.
Yeah.
And then I would be able to know, based on that map, that road map, where I was on that pathway and on that journey. And I think it's important for people to say, okay, here's where I'm at today.
Yeah.
And how do I get to where I want to go in the future? So you're doing the same thing. You're charting out a pathway. You're setting a roadmap. And I'll say this. The first thing that I think that we did effectively to try to begin to build wealth was we both worked in corporate jobs, and we took advantage of the 401k match, the free money portion. We may not have gone like well above that. If it was 3 or 6%, we said, okay, we're going to invest the 3 or 6%.
Get the minimum.
To get that free money.
Yes. Yes. So how this played out is like at Motorola, where I worked, the first 3%, they matched dollar for dollar. So I put in $1, they put in $1. The next 3%, I put in $1, they put in 50 cents. So I got the full 6% that they were matching something and made that my commitment. And even while we were in debt, we just continued to do that. And Chris did that at his workplace as well. And I think that we tend to think that is so much more money. I would challenge you to see how much that truly is for your workplace. And if your workplace doesn't have that, maybe think about what it is that you can do to get into a Roth IRA so that you can begin to set dollars aside for your future that is not touched until you need it at, hopefully, not before age 59 and a half when you don't have any penalties, okay?
Look, let's be honest. The good thing about it is that they take that out pre-tax, so you don't even see it in your paycheck, right?
Right.
And sometimes that's the best way to do it is just take that money before you even see it, and you don't have the obligation to do it on your own. Mm-hmm. And so I even look back and I think about how we were, some people would say, no, don't do that until you get out of debt. And there are a ton of places out there. There are a ton of systems. There are a ton of, financial people that say, do it this way. And they say, don't deviate, only do it this way. And we believe that you have to do what works for you.
Yeah.
And I will continue to tout progress over perfection. So if you take a piece from this plan and you take a piece from that plan, you take a piece from this plan and you put it together and you develop a roadmap and you have a mindset that is going to cause you to stick to it, then I think you can get where you want to go.
And I think the other thing is making sure that as a team couple, you are in alignment, right? So you're learning, you might be listening to our podcast, reading some books, taking some courses, you are on somebody's blog, you're trying to figure out how to make this thing called money work. And like Chris said, there's all these, financial gurus out here. And a lot of the time you can take one person's path and do it all hard and fast and not even worrying about what somebody else is doing. But likely in real life, you have to figure out where the two of you, the two people in your household, you and your partner, where you agree, because sometimes you're not going to agree on everything that everybody is saying. But if the two of you are in alignment, that is where you're going to see success. So I think having the conversation on what it is that we want to do now that we have a new set of ideas and new set of learning that we have achieved, and what will we be committed to as a team? That's important.
So, we talk about here at the For Better and Worth podcast, we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you build your net worth. And we know that once you factor in money into any relationship, it gets complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talked about alignment, I want to just rewind, come back to that. Alignment is really just getting on the same page,
Mm-hmm.
coming up with priorities that are agreed. And sometimes that requires negotiation.
Ooh.
And because, Erica and I, we got some projects we're going to be doing here at home. And, we agree on some things and we disagree on some things. We agree on getting it done, but we may disagree on the pace.
Yeah.
And so we literally had to have some meetings and say, okay, here's what we want to do. And we just started prioritizing. This is first, this is second, this is a 2023 thing, this is a 2024 thing. But we were able to come into alignment and make sure that when we started to move forward, that it wasn't my plan or her plan, it was our plan.
And I think some really good questions to ask when you're trying to figure out if you are aligned is to just, one, say open-ended questions like, what are your thoughts on this? How do you see this happening? When do you see this happening? What do you think we need to change in order for this to be the true scenario? Or what is first? What is second in your mind? And let people talk. Let your partner talk. Sit back, don't say anything, and let them talk. I learned something significant from Chris when we did that about this home renovation. One of the biggest questions I said was that I didn't have clarity on. It was, when do you see this happening? Is this something you see has to happen at this moment, or do you see any flexibility? And it was interesting because I didn't have the same answer that he did. And so it was very important that I ask, when does he see that occurring? And so when you're talking about your dreams and your goals and where you want to go, sometimes you just have to have an open-ended question and you let your partner talk and you listen. And then don't jump in and say that's not right or that doesn't make sense. You listen. And then you see where you are aligned as you guys have that conversation.
So, we were talking about money, but we're going to keep talking about relationship here. Because I think that, we've talked about having a reset. And sometimes people say, well, what is a reset? And for Erica and I, we reintroduce ourselves. We're like, hi, I'm Chris.
I'm Ericka.
And we do a little handshake, and it's ridiculous. We've known each other for a long time. I don't need to be introduced to her. But because it's ridiculous, it makes us pause and stop and say, okay, something is going on. We need to reconnect, reconvene, and then we can get into a real conversation. And so whatever it is that you need to do to create that space, create that pause so that it's not like an argument and it's, not taking you down the road of progress. Create your reset, whatever that may be, because once you do that, then you can get into the nitty gritty of what it is you're trying to accomplish from a money perspective.
Yeah, and I think that having a reset that is silly or unexpected or that puts a smile on your face is key. Like, we're not trying to have a reset that is not effective. Like, it's got to be simple. It's got to, make you smile or make you laugh, because it is in fact ridiculous. It could be, sometimes our resets Chris is really good at making a song out of something ridiculous. And then you can start singing a song, or he'll make a joke out of something. And you're like, really? And so it's almost like out of left field. And that is why it actually works, is because it just didn't, you didn't even think this is where we were going.
Look, don't make your reset. Well, I need to just go to my prayer closet. I'm
No.
gonna spend 2 hours there.
What we're not going
I
to
want
do.
you to spend time with the Lord, okay? Don't get me wrong, but you got to make it something that in the moment you can do it. It could be instant. You can just connect and reestablish and move forward.
Yeah.
So back to this money talk. Like every step mattering and being something that you have to do to continue to move forward, because those little steps matter. What are some small steps that you're proud of that we took?
Well, one of the things that I'm proud of actually is that we calculated our net worth early. And so I think it's bears repeating, explaining here that your net worth is your assets, anything that you own, your home, vehicles, anything inside of your home, your investments, etc. that have
Savings.
yeah, your value on the positive side, minus any debts that you have against it. So, auto loans, mortgages, credit cards, student loans, all of that. And the balance of that is your net worth. And so, we did that early on. Matter of fact, we had a spreadsheet that we kept for many years before we made it an electronic or did it inside of a software tool. We had an Excel spreadsheet where we were tracking our net worth. And so as you pay off debt, your net worth begins to go up. As you continue to invest in your future, your net worth is going up. And so each year we would see those numbers change. And so I think it's important if we're really trying to close the gap, we have to know where we're starting. And so if you know that you're starting at a certain point, then you can imagine a future. If you don't face it, you can't fix it. So let's make certain that we calculate our net worth. And that's something that we did probably a year into our marriage, and we continued to do it manually for several years. And that was very, very helpful. I remember the moment when we hit like $100,000 in net worth and how cool it was to see six figures of net worth, right? And just being able to see some of those milestones is really, celebrating those wins all along the way. So I think that that's one thing that I'm very proud of is that we figured out what a net worth was when that wasn't something that was spoken in our homes coming up.
Look, it sounds like there was some intentionality there. And so here's what I'm going to give as a step one is be intentional.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a relationship or you're married or wherever you're at and you're sharing money, be intentional. Like maybe just have a money meeting and say, look, this is where we're at today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like locate yourself on that map and say, this is where we're at today. And then start to chart out where it is that you want to go.
Yeah.
And then you work on that roadmap, and you got to have checkpoints along the way because on any trip, any destination, it's not just A to B, it's all the stops and the places in between. And so what we've decided is that while we're on this journey, we're going to be intentional and we're going to say yes to the things that really matter. We're going to say no to the things that don't. And we're going to make sure that we still enjoy ourselves along the way. But we are intentional about putting things in the budget, taking things out of the budget, and making sure that it's helping us accomplish the goal and get to where we want to get to.
Yeah. So let's talk about that first step, right? So we talked about making sure that you put consistently into your company plan, your 401k plan, if you have that, or government savings and all that kind of stuff. There are different plans for different types of organizations. The 401k plan is accessible to probably 60% of Americans, so utilize that. And so when you do that, let's just keep the numbers real simple, right? So $180 per month that you invest. We're not even talking about the company match here. We're just saying $180 per month for 40 years. So yes, it's a long time, but you're consistent. You're not touching it. You're not taking loans on that money at 10% interest. Just round numbers here. So I know the last year has been kind of crazy for the stock market, but over time, if on average you can get a 10% return in 40 years, that's 1.1 million. So let's just talk about this, honey. Like, where can people find $180 per month?
Look, that's less than $2,200 a year.
Correct.
So if you think about your salary and what you make, that is not a lot. It could be a lot for some people, but it's, when you dig in and you talk about finding it, every time I go to Starbucks, it's like $6 for a coffee.
Right.
I mean, people don't just get a coffee, which is like, $2 or something, but you spend $6 at Starbucks a few days a week.
Yep.
There's some money. And you start talking about like subscriptions, I look at it, Hulu and Netflix and HBO Max and Amazon Prime,
All of it.
all of that. You can find some places to cut.
And
And
let's just talk about dining out.
oh
Lord,
man,
have mercy.
we'll say that for other episodes, but even Amazon, maybe pull back on, pressing that shopping cart, and buy and deciding that I got to make sure I put this 180 ahead of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you'll hear like in the conversations here, Ericka she's the tactician, she's the technical one and gets into, some of the things that really will help. I'm the visionary. Okay, I like to cast vision, and sometimes you got to be able to, where you're at, but you have to have a vision and a goal to see where you're going and see what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about a couple $1,000s a year when it's $180 a month. But just imagine as you continue to grow in your career, you increase your salary, you grow your business. If you're an entrepreneur, you increase what you bring home from an income perspective. In 2023, the 401k contribution maximum is $22,500. So imagine as you continue to turn that 3% to 4, that 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 10, and you reach a point where you're, just dream that you can max out and put the full 22,000 in. It's not going to take you 40 years to get your first million.
Absolutely. And you know what? Then no one can have you as a part of that statistic, right? So if you prioritize building a true net worth, just start somewhere. You start with 180. Maybe you start with $100. Maybe you start with $300. I don't know.
You start with $50.
Yeah, I don't know what your starting point is, but just know it's possible no matter where it is that you begin, that you can continue to grow. And I think the goal here, the thing that we want for every listener is for you not to be a part of that statistic. No matter if, you are $188,000 in net worth or $24,000 in net worth, none of it. Anything in there is not enough for you to retire. So we want you to blow that out of the water in terms of what it is that you're able to build by the time you decide to step away from working for, corporate America or inside your business for the long term. It's time for us to really take our financial future into our own hands.
Look, Ericka knows one of my favorite words in the world is perspective.
Yeah.
And she does a good job of helping me maintain a positive perspective, sometimes when I get it twisted.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I think about perspective, they say, if you change the things you look at, the things you look at change.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to give you just a small illustration. I have a jar that I keep in my closet, and it's just a, mason jar. It's a nice sized jar. And every day when I come home, if I had change in my pocket, I just, go to that jar, drop the change in the jar. And I do this like every day for a year. And I watch that little bit of change just grow. I think I dropped in like yesterday, day before, like 31 cents into this jar. And I'm not counting what it is. If it's in my pocket, I just drop it in there. But then every year I take that jar and I go and I cash that change in. And it's amazing to watch that little bit of change turn into hundreds of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those illustrations where don't despise small beginnings.
Yep.
And the Bible even says, he that is faithful over that which is
little
mm-hmm. shall be made ruler over that which is much.
Yes.
And so don't despise, small beginnings. Don't despise that you're starting out with $50,
mm-hmm.
$100 a month to get to the 180. And once you get there, maybe you become 200, 250, because over time, that is going to become a whole lot more.
Yep.
And so I don't know. That's just something I do is my little change jar, because for me, it remains a visual representation of what consistency looks like.
Yes. And I think it's so good. Sometimes you need that visual representation. I've had clients who created a thermometer on a poster board and put it up on their wall. And as they paid off debt, they drew a line and they filled it in. You could do the same thing for your net worth if you're trying to get to a certain level, and you start seeing that thing change, and you just begin to notice that on a daily basis. It's visual, it's on your computer, or it's on the wall, or it's on the refrigerator, or it's by your bed, whatever it is that you need to do to make it something that is repeatedly seen, and motivating. It gets you excited. It's like, I'm getting close. Oh yeah. I remember the day that we paid off our debt, and I called my best friend. I was at work, and I called my best friend. I was like, we did it. I went outside and I was like, we did it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we did it. And like, that was huge. We were, working professionals, and we were putting, like, at that point, probably $2,000 a month on our student loans. And it had been 5 years trying to get out of debt. And it's like, oh my gosh, sometimes you get in the middle of it and you're like, it's going to take forever. And then one day you look up and you're like, man, it's right around the corner. And so just know that as you continue to move forward, as you don't get off track, as you continue to show yourself those milestones and you celebrate the wins along the way, the end result, I promise you, is worth it.
Look, I hear the 5 years, and I'm like, man, we could have did that a lot sooner. And so I just like to be real, and I like to be, just transparent with people. Like, was our journey perfect? No, it wasn't. Could we have done it sooner? Absolutely. But we made some mistakes along the way. But I think the important thing is we learned from those mistakes. And we were still early on in our relationship, and we were able, now here it is 20 years later,
Yep.
and we can say, well, we did it and we accomplished it. But, you've got to just determine your pace and what that pace is going to look like. And that's why you will always hear me say progress over perfection.
Yeah.
And I just want to see you guys making progress, doing things that matter. And that's why every step counts.
Yeah.
Every step matters.
Yep.
And if we're talking about closing this wealth gap and this wealth disparity, you have to just develop that mindset. I believe in the power of positive thinking. And the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. And so I just believe you have to think about what it is you want to get, who it is you want to be, and then work towards becoming that.
Yeah.
And I am going to continue to reiterate that roadmap, because when you can locate where you are from a GPS perspective, you can reroute if you get off track. And you can continue to get back on that pathway and work towards getting where it is you guys want to get to.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that you want to make sure that you keep in mind, right, is that just because you made the commitment doesn't mean it's going to be all roses and perfect along the way. I mean, just know that you're going to encounter setbacks, roadblocks. I mean, we experienced layoff, job loss. We experienced, losses in our family.
We had 2 kids.
Yeah, we had 2 kids. Them jokers. They will set you back some money for sure. And so there's a lot in life that happens that causes us to, divert a bit of our attention. I think the biggest thing that you can do is have vision, create that vision, create a game plan, stick with it, and have what I think we like to call some no matter what's. And for us, one of those no matter what's is we're not touching that retirement dollars, and we're going to make sure that we continue to do that. And consistently for 25 years, we have consistently put dollars away. So,
Sir,
I want to circle back because it is Black History Month, and one of those things that I think would be really great for those of you who need the inspiration on some people who can be aspirational for you, because I think it's important that we remember people, or we learn about folks during Black History Month that will inspire us, right? And so one of the people that has inspired me since the day I found out that his actions speak louder than his words is Robert Smith. He is an entrepreneur. He is a Black American billionaire.
That's with a B.
Yes. And he paid off the graduating class at Morehouse a few years back, their student loans. And it amounted to over $30 million in debt payoff for these students. He changed every student in that graduating class, their future lives. And so people like that inspire me. The idea that building wealth can afford opportunities like that inspire me. And so, sure, changing your net worth is important so that you're not a part of that statistic, or it's important for your family. It's important for those that are close to you and the life that you want to live in the future. But what if you can be like a Robert Smith? I mean, we've heard about, Rihanna, she's a billionaire. We've heard about Tyler Perry, but he was at one point homeless, right? And so thinking about some stories that inspire you, people who can help keep you moving forward, I think would be a great thing to do in this month.
Look, I love to see many of us out there be modern day millionaires.
Come on now.
That
Let's go.
drive regular cars, live in regular neighborhoods, but they're millionaires amongst us.
That's
And
right.
that's what we're calling all of you to be, and that's what I believe we're going to see. And so here at the For Better and Worth podcast, we're always going to tell you, is it worth it? And so, yes, in my perspective, it is worth it to take the small steps, to be intentional and create that roadmap. Assess where you are today and where you want to go. Build some vision.
Yeah.
And then work towards that vision. Start where you're at. Leverage those company benefits, be it the 401k contributions, the flexible savings or HSAs, whatever it is, whatever they offering, go get your bag, get it all.
That's right. That's right. And I think the other thing, it's never worth it to abandon your goal when you have a detour or life hits you sideways. Man, you do not want to regret having missed out on achieving something simply because life hit you sideways or you had something unexpected come up and you forgot or didn't know how to get back on track. Just stay consistent. Know what your goal is. Create that big picture forecast and be consistent getting there, because determination will get you there.
Look, we're going to ask you to be consistent. Stick with us as we continue to put out content that is relevant to you. And make sure you keep pressing that like, that subscribe, and that follow. And let us know what you think about the episodes. Drop your comments and feedback in the comment sections on whatever platform you're looking at. We'll see it. We're out there. And until next time, we're out. Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up for our email on forbetterandworth.com.
Till next time, we're out of here.